This is the vlog for October 1st, 2018. And, oh, you know what? I need to real fast make sure that I have room on my hard drive for this video. Okay, I've got 15 gigs free, so I'm good. Usually 1 month's worth of vlogs takes up a considerable amount of space on the hard drive on my laptop, and so every month I clear out all the previous month's videos so that I have room for another month's worth. And I usually do that on the first of the month so that all the videos that I have in there are from the new month. So I'll get rid of all the September ones, and I'll only have October ones until the day after Halloween, which is on a Wednesday this year, which is not great. So I've been listening to Critical Role. Started with Campaign 2. And currently they are engaging in a heist of sorts. It's not a heist in the traditional sense, in that they're not exactly trying to steal loot, gold, money from people, but rather they're trying to plant false evidence, ironically, in an attempt to expose the corruption of two officials, or rather one official and one noble that is engaging in corrupt activity, so that they can be ousted and replaced, if not outright jailed, and improve the status of the lives of middle and lower class citizens in the city. I hope it's not lost on the Mighty Nine that they are, in fact, engaging in illegal activities in an attempt to halt illegal activities. So it's a very chaotic good kind of a situation. This is the lesser of quite a few evils. But it's silly. It is a bit silly. And not going according to plan. And here's the thing about heists in role-playing games. Heists in video games actually generally go really well, as long as you do all of the things that you need to do in order to get them off without a hitch. The Thief games, in particular, are a great example of this. You are a second-story man who has all sorts of tricks up his sleeve that you can use to pilfer goods, make a lot of money, and do it without being seen and without killing, generally speaking. I remember playing Oblivion, doing the Thieves Guild's quest for Oblivion, where you were stiffly penalized for killing anybody during the quests. And so a lot of the stealth work was just being very careful, very cautious. And Skyrim does a pretty good job, but there are quite a few places where combat is just sort of what you do, shaking down people for money at the very early quest, which I never really liked. I liked that the Thieves Guild quest in Oblivion was very much heists. Break in, take something of great value that will be of importance to the story later, get out again. In between quests, you're doing random jobs for high amounts of money, which unlocks the next series of quests. It was elegant. It was surprisingly elegant, given that it was a mid-2000s game and we hadn't quite gotten to some of the more ludicrous levels of spectacle in games at that point. Although a couple years later we'd have like the Arkham games, where sneaking around has become a much more dramatic sort of an activity. So the heist in Dungeons and Dragons, in Critical Role I should say, is not that elegant because it relies on a lot of randomness. Every major action the characters take that has to be contested by fate or the environment or other characters requires a roll on a 20-sided dice, which generally represents probabilities of things in percentiles rounded to the nearest fifth. So, 5, 10, 15, 20%. and given that even with the most impressive skill bonuses that some of the characters can muster, uh, ones still generally count as failures no matter what. Uh, there's yeah, it goes poorly for a couple characters in a couple places. Um, People falling off of buildings, people activating traps that didn't realize that were there, um, alerting specific guards, or not being immediately successful in your ability to sneak. Um, all things that put the greater plan in jeopardy. But thankfully, Matt Mercer is a genius. He doesn't make any of these roles outright fail the entire thing. Oh no, you got alerted by a guard who then tells all the other guards that there's been a break-in and he recognizes your faces, and now there's 20 guys who've seen your faces, and you basically have to flee the city or you'll be put in jail, etc. Which is stuff that I've inflicted on players at least once when they decided very poorly to break into a place. And it is important to sort of roll with what the players are doing and allow for success in ways that you might not have originally envisioned, because it gives agency to the players. They are helping tell the story that you have set, but they are characters and they are players, they are actors in this story, and they might have a different idea than what you had. And rather than punish them for not having the same idea you had, which is silly, why even run a game in the first place? Why don't you just write a story, write a short story or a novel if you're going to make all the decisions for them? You have to be willing to go with what they're coming up with. If they come up with a ludicrous plan and it doesn't seem very likely, and it in fact doesn't seem as good as the plan that you figured they would come up with, it's better to go with them. Put the same obstacles or similar obstacles in their path, but tweak everything just a little bit so that it's more in tune with what they envision it to be. Still throw in surprises, but don't make failure to overcome the surprises ruin the entire affair. The thing about a heist is that it feels very binary. You're either getting away with it or you're getting caught, but there are a lot of grades in between. Like, there's getting out scot-free, leaving no trace behind. There's getting out but being identifiable by something that you left behind later, which can lead to really cool investigator NPCs on your tail, and you have to either, kill them or convince them of your innocence, or even getting caught is not necessarily the end of the thing. You can have a really cool, interesting trial. You can have one character get captured, and the other characters have to then bust them out in a new adventure. There are options that don't just end with all the characters are in jail and they can't escape, or all the characters get killed by the guards in the ensuing fight. Although if the characters put up a fight, it's possible that the guards will just have to kill them because there's no other way to try and end them, capture or stop them. That's the word I'm looking for. Matt's doing a fantastic job. I haven't actually finished this episode yet, so I don't know if they get out and accomplish their original goal. That's the other thing that can happen. And it's actually something that very smart players should always keep in mind. You can abort. Sometimes aborting and just living with your failure, but without getting caught, is more important than trying to finish a mission, succeeding maybe on some level, and then getting caught and having to deal with the repercussions. As much fun as all those scenarios I just made were, they can really derail a story if you had it in mind. So it's, it's best to have a plan for what if these guys screw up so bad that this, that, or the other thing happens, and give them a way out of it. Especially if you can tie in some of the story points that you were going to introduce later. But it's tricky. And any DM will tell you, after they've run at least a couple games, there is no way to predict what all of your players will do. And there's definitely no way for anyone to ever predict which idea in a group will prove the most popular, although the more ridiculous, the better it has a chance of actually happening. I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.